Hi everyone, in this video I explain the continue and break statements in C. I start out with a basic example of a for loop that outputs the numbers from 1 through 10. In the for loop I have an integer that's initialized to 1. Then I have a condition. I continue iterating this for loop as long as I is less than or equal to 10. And after each iteration, I increment I to the next integer. Then inside the for loop, in each iteration, I output I equal and then the current value of I, followed by a line break. And then when the loop completes, I output loop ended. Let's output these values. So I click play, and then I get the console output on the side here. So here I can see I want to loop from 1 to 10. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then the loop ended. Sometimes you don't want to iterate over every single value that you have in a loop. Sometimes you want to perform iteration, but there are some exceptions where you want to skip that value. So let's say in this case I want to output all values from 1 to 10, but I do want to skip the value of 5. Now in this case I could add a condition here. If I is 5, I want to continue. And continue means essentially skipping the rest of the iteration and continue the loop with the next update and the next iteration. So here in this case it would initialize to 1. This condition is false. It would output 1, increment 1 to 2. 2 is not equal 5, so it skips the continue statement and output 2, then 3, 4, and eventually I is 5. So this condition is true. It encounters the continue statement, and in this case it skips the remaining statements in this block. So it jumps right to increment, increments I to 6. This is false, and then it outputs everything. So as a result, I output all the numbers from 1 to 10, but I do skip 5. So when I run this, on the output, you can see I outputted 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I skipped 5 and continue with 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and the loop ended. This is the continue statement. Now let's take a look at the break statement. So let's say I want to output values 1 to 10. I skip 5 and I want to stop at 8. So here, if I equals 8, I add the break statement. So unlike continue, which continues to the next iteration, break completely breaks out of that loop. So when the break is encountered, essentially I break out the loop, continue the statements after the loop. So here I would output 1 through 4. So here I would output 1, 2, 3, 4. I would skip 5. Then I output 6 and 7. Then I encounter 8 and break out the loop, and the loop will end. So when I run this, you can see I output values 1, 2, 3, 4. I skip 5, I output 6 and 7, and when 8 is encountered, I broke out of the loop and the loop ended. Now in this case, it's somewhat artificial because I could have just done I is less than or equal to 7 or I is less than 8, and I wouldn't even need the break. This works in this example, but there's many examples where a break can still be useful, especially when you don't know when to encounter or when that value happens. So if you search for a bunch of values and you encounter the target value that you're looking for, you want to break the loop. You don't want to continue searching. Or here's another example that deals with user input. So in this program, I want to ask the user to enter an integer number, and I just reflect and respond to him, this is what you entered. Now the user can continue the program as long as the user wants to, but if the user enters 0, I want to stop the program and end the loop. Now in this case, I have an integer num, then I have a while loop, so as long as the loop is true, I continue my program and prompt the user to enter 0 to quit or any other number. I read in the number, I check if the number is 0. If it's 0, I call the break statement and essentially break out of that loop. So I go down here and say loop ended. Or else, if it's not a 0, I just respond back to the user, you entered, and I output the value that was entered. Now, as you can see, this is much more natural. While I could still update the condition up here, I would have to have an additional condition inside the loop because I would want to skip this value when it's 0. So here a break statement makes a lot of sense because I can check if it's 0, I break out of the loop. I don't output this value here, and I don't have to repeat the condition twice inside the while condition as well as the if condition. What this also shows you that break statements as well as continue statements can be used in any of the 3 loops. You can use them in for loops, in while loops, and in do while loops. And in each of the loops they have the same meaning. When you use continue, you essentially skip to the next iteration. So if I were to use continue right here, I would skip all the following statements inside the block of the loop and continue with the next iteration. So I would go up here, check the condition, and then continue. With break, I always break out of the loop. Doesn't matter if it's for loop, while loop, or do while loop. I break and continue with the statements that follow the loops block. I hope this gives you an idea how break and continue statements work. Thank you for watching.